Is there a rental cooling-off period after signing a residential lease in Canada? In Canada, a signed residential lease is legally binding with no cooling-off period. Tenants cannot withdraw without penalty unless agreed upon or the lease permitted it. To end a fixed-term tenancy early, tenants must pay remaining rent unless a replacement tenant is found, though early termination is allowed for mutual agreement or domestic violence. Here is a detailed explanation. 1. No cooling-off period. There is no automatic cooling-off period for canceling residential leases in Canada after signing. 2. Legally binding. Signed leases are binding contracts in Canada for both tenant and landlord. 3. A mutual agreement. A lease can be terminated early by mutual agreement, typically in writing via a landlord and tenant board form. 4. Specific situations. A tenant may break their lease early in cases of domestic violence or sexual abuse. 5. Assignment or subletting. Leases may be assigned or sublet with landlord approval. 6. Tenant's notice. Tenants must provide proper written notice, like the N9 form in Ontario, to their landlord when moving out. A. Fixed-term tenancies. Fixed-term leases typically last a year. Tenants wishing to terminate early may need to give 60 days notice, with the termination date aligning with the rental period's end. Agreement for early termination. To leave early, tenants must have a termination clause in their lease or agree with their landlord. Taking financial responsibility. A tenant may break a fixed-term lease without agreement and must pay remaining rent unless the landlord re-rents the unit. B. Month-to-month tenancies. To end a tenancy, 2 months written notice must be given before the rent due date, with the termination on the rental period's last day. For example, in Ontario, if tenancy converts to month or week-to-week, standard notice periods apply: 60 days for monthly, 28 days for weekly. 7. Mitigation duties. Upon early termination, landlords must seek a new tenant to minimize losses, and tenants may owe rent until a replacement is found. 8. A change of heart after signing. A tenant who terminates a lease early is responsible for the remaining rent unless a lease clause or legal reason permits otherwise. In summary, legal advice: tenants should consult a residential tenancy lawyer before breaking their lease to understand their rights and obligations. Reach a mutual agreement. Tenants in Canada can end their lease early by mutually agreeing with their landlord and signing an early termination agreement. Consider options. Your landlord may negotiate a termination agreement if you secure a lease takeover, sublet, or assignment. Thank you. Subscribe to Hager Media on YouTube for more resources.